Welcome to today's show. Today I have Delegate Erek Barron from District 24. I have Miss Mahasin, or well, should I say, newly elected clerk for Prince George's County Circuit Court. Mr. Erek Barron is currently the delegate for District 24. He's a former state and federal prosecutor. Wow! Litigator and counselor at the law firm of Whiteford, Taylor, and Preston, LLP. Miss Mahasin Amin, as I said, she's the, or can I say newly elected right now?
You can say the Democratic nominee.
Democratic nominee.
Soon to be.
Soon to be officially elected Prince George's County Clerk of the Circuit Court. She's an experienced attorney, born and raised in Prince George's County. As I found out, she's a graduate of Suitland High School.
Go Rams!
Hey, and she is a ultra marathoner, which means you run it.
Oh, anything over 26.2. So I've done 2 30-milers and a 50-miler.
Jesus Christ. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you all for coming in. I really appreciate it. I just want to say real quick I want to let people know how I met you too. So I was going through some things about reentry services, and I sent out an email to all my representatives. I sent one out to Erek, sent one out to Jazz Lewis, I sent one out to Senator Benson, and I forgot who the other delegate was.
Carolyn Howard.
Yep, Howard. And out of all of them, the one who responded, I'm going to look in the camera for this, was Mr. Barron, right? And when he responded, it was just straight like, when can you come in my office? And I came in his office and we had a conversation, and ever since then, man, I've been able to call my delegate, District 24. See, this is constituent services right here. This is my delegate. So I can call him. I have his, why did it go red? Why did it go green? Is it still live? Okay, we back. Thank you. So I can call him. I have his cell phone number. All of you all may not get his cell phone number, but I have a cell phone number and I can call him. But this is what constituent services is. And the one thing that he said to me was that he was going to make sure that he gave the best constituent services to his constituents, right? Is that what you said?
That's the goal.
And it's been like that ever since we did and then that's how I met you when we did the voter registration drive for returning citizens. Mahasin, unbeknownst to me, was running for circuit court clerk, came and volunteered. So this is great. This is great community advocacy and working right here, working together. So let's get this started. Would you like to say anything? Anybody like to say anything before we get started?
No, let's get the party started.
Let's get it popping.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna start with Mr. Barron. 2018 campaigns. What are your greatest accomplishments you would like the voters of District 24 to know about?
So, well, let's start with constituent services and engagement of my constituents and voters. When I got elected in 2014, I really wanted to kind of get us back to basics representation. Right. Community meetings, town halls, knocking on doors, one-on-one with your constituents, you know, and at this level of government, that's what we should be able to do. It's a lot of people. Every district has roughly 120,000 people that we represent. But, you know, while that's a lot of people, we do, you know, it is at a level that you should be able to have that kind of one-on-one.
Right.
And so, you know, my goal has been to engage my constituents, get them more actively involved in what's going on and more informed. And if we have a more informed electorate, then we have better outcomes as far as policy. You know, two other things, the hospital. When I was elected, this new regional medical center in Prince George's was a question mark.
Okay.
We weren't sure whether or not we were going to have the funding, whether we were going to get there. But we are there.
Yes.
You know, ground is breaking. We're going to have a new regional medical center.
Great.
Better health care for the county. And the last thing, the Justice Reinvestment Act, which is just a huge monumental bill, landmark criminal justice bill for Maryland, where we are reducing unnecessary, unwarranted incarceration, getting people drug treatment, mental health treatment, reducing the recidivism rates, enhancing public safety, saving money, and saving lives.
Great, great. And that took effect this year?
That took effect October of last year.
Last year.
Yep.
Okay, just great, great. Miss Amin, I'm gonna come to you, and let me ask you, what is the responsibility for the clerk of the circuit court?
The clerk of the circuit court is the administrative arm of the court. It's a lot of people, most people don't know what the clerk does. So I'll start with the happy stuff. When you go to file your property deeds, that's where you go. You go to the clerk's office. They're responsible for maintaining the property records because that is how Prince George's County gets a lot of their revenue. It's over 50% of their revenue comes from taxes, property taxes. Your business records.
Okay.
Your business licenses, your marriage licenses. We perform civil ceremony. So come courthouse. That's courthouse wedding.
Okay.
We are also responsible for, like I said, maintaining the courthouse records. So every single sheet of paper that goes in and out of that courthouse goes to the clerk's office, where we process summonses. You go to file your lawsuits, your divorces, your child support cases. You know, anything that has to do with that courthouse, that's where you go. It's pretty much like the heartbeat of the courthouse. We're the first people that you contact, and we're the last people that you come in contact with. So it's a very important function of the courthouse.
Got you. And before I go on, Mr. Barron, a background on experience in education.
My education?
Yes.
So I graduated from University of Maryland, College Park. Went to law school at George Washington University Law School, and ended up going back to law school at Georgetown and got a Master of Laws degree.
And Miss Mahasin.
Well, like you said, I graduated from Suitland High School. Then I went to University of Florida, go Gators, for undergrad, where I got my degree in public relations. And then I went to University of Baltimore School of Law.
Cool. So, Mr. Barron, I'm gonna get to this. You were a federal prosecutor.
Yes, sir.
And a state prosecutor.
Yes, sir.
Let me check my paperwork, man, make sure you. But now, to have you as a champion for justice reform, what part of your experience in being federal prosecutors play a role in this?
So as a prosecutor, you're, you know, in the courthouse every day. You know, you're having contact with victims, with judges, with law enforcement every day. You're on the ground, and so that on the ground experience gave me, you know, some fluency in how the criminal justice system works as a practical matter, day to day, for everyday people. Some of the things that are wrong, some of the things that are going right, and things, you know, that we could and should be doing better. So, you know, I wasn't sure how long I wanted to be a prosecutor, but long enough to get that kind of experience and then transition to more a policy level.
Okay.
And it allows me to speak on things that, others read about, maybe they see the TV shows, but I've been there and done that, so it gives me hopefully a level of credibility that others, may not have.
Got you. What would you consider to be one of the most unjust things that you see going on in the criminal system?
Well, I would say as a general matter, one of my roles that I view as myself playing in the state legislature is being at the intersection of healthcare and criminal justice.
Okay.
And so as a general matter, we're viewing those two issues, healthcare and criminal justice, too much in a vacuum and not bringing them together and understanding, that there are some things that we really should be mainly, our orientation on how we view those things should be mainly from a healthcare standpoint as opposed to a criminal standpoint. Mm-hmm. So, for example, substance abuse, mm-hmm. we're essentially criminalized substance abuse. Mm-hmm. We have essentially criminalized mental illness. Mm-hmm. And if we kind of take a step back and take more of a health-centered approach to those things, we can help people before they even get mm-hmm. justice involved. And to the extent that they do, we can find ways to divert them into treatment and programming that will get them on the right foot, as opposed to just locking them up mm-hmm. and just exacerbating whatever problems they may have and not doing anything for us as a society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. To hear you talking like that, man, it's like being on the other side of the fence, where I seen the number of individuals incarcerated because of drug use, mm-hmm. having an addiction, and mm-hmm. trying to fight it, even trying to fight it in prison. Right. There's not much in there like we just basically sitting there being warehoused.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense to have you out in the programs, especially if you're not a violent offender. Like, I get it with the violent offenders. So it makes a lot more sense to try to divert some of us into programs and get it right that way. Ms. Mahasin, what made you want to run for circuit clerk? Why not for legislator? You have the law experience behind you. Why not legislator?
Well, just like I said before, the clerk's office is the heart of the courthouse, and when that doesn't function, mm-hmm. the courthouse can't function. Okay. So when you have, let's just say, someone who has filed for child support and their case is just sitting there, they're up there waiting. They're waiting for those monthly payments. They need that case to be processed. Mm-hmm. They need it to be docketed so it can get to the judge. So it can get to the judge, get scheduled, and then once they get that order, it can come back, get docketed, and they can start collecting the money. Okay. There's a period of time where it just sat. Mm. So you would have a parent waiting months. For whether it's a $250 a month payment or whether it was a $600, $1,200 a month payment, waiting for months for that to be processed. Mm-hmm. And I used to work for legal aid, and so I represented low-income clients for free. And I saw what would happen when that person didn't get that child support payment on time. Mm. So I love the courthouse, I love the law, and I love people, and I figured. And I know that is where my resources, my capabilities, and I'm an asset to mm-hmm. the county and to the public in this position right now. And that's one of the reasons why I did it. The major reason is so that's where I can give back. Okay. Using my capabilities in the best way possible.
Got you. So that goes for pretty much all the cases that are just sometimes sitting stagnant. You'll be the one that we'll be calling.
That clerk's office. Where's my case? What's going on? Right. And the current clerk, Cindy Harrison, has done a great job from where we've come from. And I just, I'm ready to take it to the next level where the state of Maryland's in the process of rolling out their online case management system. Right now, it's been implemented in all the smaller counties. Mm-hmm. Montgomery County, that's the first large county that they're rolling it out in. So by the time we get it, I hopefully will be getting it in 2021. So everything will be online process. So no more, where's my case? You know,
Really?
everything will be electronic. So it goes all the way from the district court to the court of appeals. You know, so I will be the person who will be rolling that out. You know,
That's cool.
So yeah,
We can file online too?
you'll be able to file online, view your cases online. I mean, I've used it in several other counties, St. Mary's, Calvert, Charles County. They have it in the federal system. I don't practice with vets, but
They
Erek
do
has,
everything, yeah.
and so we're it's coming. So that is going to help the process. You know,
cool. That should speed up some
it's
things.
just going to speed it up, and you know, along with the expungements and things like that. You know, I know that's something that's near and dear to, I think, everyone in this room's heart.
So speaking of, well, before we go there,
Yeah.
we talked about online. So the case search online, is that your department?
So the information that goes into it,
Yeah.
that's the clerk's office. That is the clerk's office, where it's managed and you know all the data. You know, but yes, once we put that information into the system, it goes public. That's the clerk's office.
Okay, I need to file a motion soon. Get some of this erroneous stuff off of my name.
Yes, if there's a mistake, the best way to do it is to get a judge's signature. Going into the clerk's office saying there's an error, it's tough.
I won't get personal, but tried it. But that's something different. Expungements. How does expungements? Hold on. Let me ask you first. How? Yeah, I asked you about the law, then I asked you about the processing of expungements. You could tell me about the expungement law, because wasn't there a new law came out about expungements or something this year?
Yes, as part of a bigger, larger bill, there's a larger category of offenses that are eligible for expungement after, I believe it's 10 years. So that became effective October 1st. So we do have expanded access to expungement. It's debatable how many people can take advantage of that.
Yeah, I want to get into
such a
that.
long period of time that someone,
It's either
has
10
to
or
wait.
15 years.
It's
one
10
of
or 15.
Yeah.
It may be both. I think a few that are 15 and maybe a certain category that are 10. But either way, it's a long time to be waiting for,
absolutely.
an expungement, and a long time potentially to be, trying to get a job and
Absolutely.
maybe be held back.
Exactly.
By the fact that you can't get an expungement.
So let me ask you this, because I see a lot of expungement clinics, and a lot of times when I see it, I just turn my head like, it ain't gonna help me, or it's not gonna help a lot of people in my situation, right? Because I got a violent offense, and I was found guilty. If you found guilty, are you still eligible to have? What's the criteria? Is it can felons file?
Well, now after this past bill, this past session, some are eligible for expungement. It's just after a
10-year period. Okay.
a long period of time.
Okay.
So it's worth going to the expungement clinics that you see. Most, if not all of them, are free.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have attorneys who, they want to be there.
Okay.
They went to a training, and they're volunteering their time to be there to advise people of what's eligible, what's not. If certain things aren't, maybe they will be after a certain period of time. Why not go and get that free advice?
Yep.
By
Everyone likes
people,
free.
right? Free advice with people who, nobody whipped them to be there. They want to be there to help people. So show up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Because it's just, that's part of the one of the big things, one of the main issues for us that's coming home is employment, man.
Right.
We want to, trust me, we want to come home, get a job that will allow us to make enough money to take care of our families.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But as soon as they see felony, You dead.
Yeah.
Then
It's terrible. It's no need to, you know, if folks coming out and they're doing everything we all want and expect them to do, let's encourage them and help them do that instead of labeling people for the rest of their lives and actually placing them in a position where, they may feel like they have to go back to what they were doing.
That's exactly with me. I went right to selling drugs. Exactly what I did. I tried everything. Everything. I tried social services, everything. But how does the process work? How does processing the expungements work?
You go in, you file it. It has to, go through all the approval process, and once it's you got your order to expunge, we get rid of it.
So when we go to get expungements, we have to is a processing fee.
Yeah, well, depending on what happens. If the case is dismissed, I believe there's no fee to it.
Okay.
Or if it's a not guilty. If it's not guilty, I don't think there's a fee. Sometimes it's a $31 fee, but there is a processing fee to it. You pay the fee. It has to got to get an order, sign off on it, and then it's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
What about sealing records? What is that even possible in PG County or state of Maryland to seal a record
for criminal records? I'm not sure. I don't think there's in terms of sealing because it's a public record. I mean, there might be some like financial records or something that's like maybe some medical.
Maryland doesn't so much as seal records. Like DC, there's a whole category of, not necessarily expungement but sealing. Now, but we have come and tried to, certain things where our more conservative friends are worried about expungement. Well, then we've tried to, say, hey, well, what about sealing it? And so that, it's tough. We're fighting every session on these things, but it may be the case that we can, if not necessarily expand expungement, put certain things in the category of a sealing. So that's been a conversation.
So we're gonna get ready to take a break. When we come back, I would like for you to be able to explain to us, Mr. Barron, the process of a bill going from the thought to passing it. Because a lot of us, like even myself, I sit there and I be like, man, why the heck? Ooh, and I need to understand the process, and the people need to understand the process. Right. All everything from the thought of it to pushing the bill to actually coming out and lobbying it.
Right.
Because you can't sit there and just lobby everybody on your own. If I want you, I need to give you some help, right?
Need all the help I can get.
Yes,
All right. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the process of passing a bill. I will be right back.
Well, I got a life story. I was a drug addict.
Depressed.
Hit rock bottom. Sold drugs.
Homeless.
Commit crimes.
I was in prison.
I began using when I was about 8 years old. I stole a lot from my community.
I understand about being homeless. I understand about being addicted to drugs because I was both of them.
Thugging the market, using drugs.
On welfare.
I lost everything.
I got shot.
I said, this is time for me to stop. Do I want to live or do I want to die?
I went into treatment, but I didn't know what to do, how to move forward.
I came to DC Central Kitchen. Man, this is a wonderful place to be.
It empowered us. I have my family back in my life.
It made me a better person, made me a better father.
I'm on my way to college.
Oh, I choose to work instead of being out in the street.
And now I became the man that I always wanted to be.
I'm Larry Hogan. I want to take a minute in support of my important ballot initiative.
The governor's referring to what's been dubbed a lockbox ballot initiative. It's aimed at using all casino revenue going to the state for K-12 education. But his bill died in a committee. The governor's lockbox would have been created by a statute and subject to change. The measure that did pass and that the governor signed is a Democratic proposal. As a referendum, it now goes before the voters this November to decide, and if it passes, the initiative will be part of the state constitution.
This proposal helps us end educational inequality
The governor's office already has the power to level the playing field. Casino revenues have outpaced education spending for years. But instead of dipping into that revenue, the governor and his predecessor have used the funds to pay other bills.
This proposal helps us end educational inequality, boost school safety, teachers' salaries, and school construction.
The bill does not specifically mention school safety funding, but it doesn't prohibit it either.
We're already funding our schools at record levels.
Funding at record levels is mandated by state law.
Vote yes on the Hogan Lockbox initiative.
But it's not Governor Hogan's Lockbox initiative. His bill died in committee. This is a Democrat proposal the governor's trying to take ownership of.
He's the son of 2 Maryland school teachers, Ben Jealous, Rhodes Scholar, who turned around the NAACP when its finances were in tatters, restoring its prominence, nearly doubling its revenue. Named Marylander of the Year, businessman and venture capitalist, Ben's helped grow over 20 companies, creating over 1,000 jobs. Ben Jealous. His plan, Medicare for all, to lower costs and prescription drug prices. Fully fund public schools. Increase teacher pay. Ben Jealous. A job creator with a plan to invest in small businesses. The Baltimore Sun said Jealous has the stature and gravitas to lead Maryland. Ben's endorsed by teachers, nurses, and business leaders.
I've spent my life pulling people together to get big things done. We can do much better on jobs and education and healthcare, but it means that we gotta believe in each other.
Ben Jealous, Governor.
And we are back with Delegate Erek Barron from District 24, and
You got it.
I'm going to say newly elected, the Democratic nominee for Prince George's County Circuit Court Clerk, Ms. Mahasin. Thank you all for joining me again. So I want to talk to Mr. Barron about the process of a bill. Can you take us through the steps, like from a good idea, and what are the process? What's the steps?
Okay, so I mean, it can happen in any number of different ways that an idea for a bill can come to a legislator. I could see something on TV, a constituent can come by the office, read something going on in the newspaper, and just say, oh, that's a problem, and there may be a way to fix that, through the law. And so what I will do is call up our Department of Legislative Services and say, here's the idea for a bill, or maybe I might have a draft of it, and they will literally put it all on paper, and we file it with the General Assembly, and every bill gets a hearing. And so when the session starts, they'll have a hearing in the House of Delegates and a hearing in the Senate, and that's where stakeholders come, everybody who has any opinion about the bill can come to the hearing and testify about whether they think the bill is a good idea, a bad idea, whether they think some amendments should happen to it. And then after the hearing, the committee that it's assigned to talks about the bill, discusses the bill, and figures out, well, whether is this something that we should move forward? Mm-hmm. And so there may be a committee vote. If it comes out of the committee, it will go to the floor of the House of Delegates or the floor of the Senate, and then it has to get passed by the opposite chamber. So if it started in the House, it has to go to the Senate, and it has to go through that committee hearing process, mm-hmm. and on the floor too. And then oftentimes the House passes the bill in a different form than the Senate may pass it. So then it has to kind of cross over, and then there may be a conference committee of some delegates and some senators. They sit together and they get the two versions of the bill, and they hash out what they think should stay, what they think should go, and then the bill will come out in the same form to both chambers. And if the House respective chambers agree, then it'll pass, and the governor will sign it.
So let's talk about I don't want to say backdoor agreements. Let's talk about what happens. How does the compromising work? Because for people like myself, I'm new to this thing, so right. I'm sitting here like, man, Delegate Barron should have stood firm. and pass that bill.
Right.
Right? How does that work? Let us know, the layman know that it doesn't just work like that. Like, you don't just sit here and get the bully, this my bill and this is how it's going to work. I mean, you just kind of explained it, but...
You can do that, but that may mean that, hey, it's like, well, all right, then if it has to be that way, we all don't agree, and you need our votes to get it passed. And so you have to make that decision of, well, man, Joe said this, A, B, and C is, we can't change that. And if you, think that that's the way it should go, then you fight for that, and you don't change that. But you might say, well, hey, colleagues, how about, we can make some changes here or there, and does that work for you all? And if it works for them, it works for them, and then, you can move on and pass it, and you will have made some kind of compromise with it. Okay. But, it depends on what your principles are with that bill, and what your sticking points are that you can't negotiate on. But, you have to make that balance of what's important, because what's important may end up causing the bill not to move forward. And sometimes you have to do that. But, I would go back to you. You brought the bill to me, so let's talk about, what we can live with and what we can't. Your good lawmakers will do that, make sure there's transparency and accountability, and everybody knows what the game plan is, and then we go for it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
How many bills are usually introduced in a session?
Good question. Great question.
Great question. It varies depending on how many of my colleagues put in bills, but we will consider anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 bills in one session.
And what's the session period?
90 days.
90 days.
Yes.
Day and night.
Yep.
All day, all night, and you in committees, and then you go to the full floor, the full house, right?
Right.
My God.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big job. You have 90 days to introduce something that you've been working on probably, all year, because you have that 4 months, and you still have to do the other 8 months that you're out, and then so it might take a couple of years, or a couple of sessions to get your bill passed. So when things don't happen that one session, but it might happen the second. That's why it's important for people to stay engaged with their electorate, because they need to monitor what's going on. Even though something that happened in 2017 doesn't mean that it's not going to happen in 2018 or 2019.
Sometimes a bill is kind of like, I don't know, we got, football in full swing. You might try to, plow to the left side, plow to the middle, run up, run a sweep to the right. You feeling out the defense, and it might take a couple of years to feel out the defense and know what's going to fly and what's not. And unless you stay engaged, you're not going to know that defense and know, the game plan that's ultimately going to get you that first down and then the touchdown.
So I think the most important thing that I can take from this for anyone that's watching is that we have to get involved. It's not nothing supernatural. It's not something. I told you how I met him. I called. Why we keep going to green?
Okay. Red.
Red. So we good. So I told you how I met Erek and Mahasin. So it's not nothing supernatural. I didn't do nothing magically or nothing like that. I simply sent the email. He responded. I called, and then I made this type of connection. We have to stay involved. What can we say to those of us who believe that our votes don't count? Because I be out here in the stuff I be hearing, brother.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Because we have people who had dogs sick on them. You know what I mean? Water hydrants and people who died for us to get the right to vote.
Right.
And when I hear people say, "Oh man, my vote don't count. It's rigged," or "Man, what can we say?"
Let me tell you that. Well, one way to think about this is there are people who, when they hear that, they're like, Yeah. We got them.
We got them.
Huh? Come on.
Yep.
We got them. All right.
Come on.
They're not going to show up.
Come on.
They think it's rigged. They think their vote don't count.
Come on.
Good.
Right.
You know? Prove them wrong. They want you to think that. That's part of the game.
Right.
They set you up and you fulfilling it, you know? So
We had some people in the county that won by like 3 votes.
Right.
Yeah. 7 votes.
33 votes.
Yes.
You know, it's every vote does count, especially in the local elections. All politics are local.
Yes.
I mean, I know that. I can't say I believe it. I know it. All politics are local. And this is, you have access to your electorate, your officials. They shop where you shop. They worship where you worship. They're approachable. And if they're not, then you don't vote for them.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. It's sad. It's sad to me. And the one thing you just said, Mahasin, about it being local. We put so much emphasis on the presidential election, right? We'll turn out all over the country for the presidential election, but we won't turn out for those individuals who make laws that affect us every day.
The president don't have nothing to do with whether the trash is picked up once or twice a week.
Thank you. Nothing. Nothing. President don't have nothing to do with me having to move over for the yellow lights. You know, like that's a new law. Like move over. President don't set that law. The local election, our legislators are more involved with our day-to-day life living that to me is almost more important to me. You know, who set the sentences for my son? Who set those criminal penalties for my child that just now threw a rock in that window? You know, do he go to jail? That's local. You know,
you talk about mass incarceration, for example. Do you know that the federal prison system is only about 10%? The rest is state. You know. So, you know, folks talk about issues like that, and it's really arguably 90% a local state issue, problem.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. People just have to understand that it just takes time to see change. It's not something that can be done overnight. You know, the Justice Reinvestment Act didn't happen in one term. You know,
no, certainly did not.
I mean, it took a long time for it to happen. So it's a process, and we're in a society now where it's immediate gratification. Everything's at your fingertips. We want to know an answer, we go straight to our cell phones.
Right.
But the world doesn't work like that. It takes time, and so when people say their vote doesn't matter, it matters. You just might not see the effects of it until year 2 and 3 or 4, probably, maybe even 5.
And I think something that Erek Barron said that's important is that the other side wants us to think like that.
Yep.
Like I used to think like that when I was younger and more you know, I guess a rebel or whatever it was. I used to think like that is because I didn't know. I never participated in the process before, and I didn't know how real it was. But now I know how real it is. So it's like when I sit back and I be like, bruh, how you think Trump got in office? Because we didn't get out and vote. That's why Trump is in office. He's in office because we thought Hillary was going to get a smooth sailing into there, and we did not go in and vote, and he got in office. But the thing about it that disturbs me the most is the ones that don't want us to vote, we doing their job for them. We doing exactly, to me, I feel like it's reverse psychology. Like, we don't want them fools to think that their vote counts. So guess what? We're going to get high, we're going to get drunk, we're going to do what we do, and we're not going to participate.
Or they'll go to the Beyonce and Jay-Z concert.
All day. All day. All day, every day. Let's bring it up to local elections. We got 20 minutes left. Let's talk about current elections. I want to start on the county level. Let's start with you, Mahasin. What is your expectation for the person, well, I don't have to say the person, the person elected to the Prince George County County Executive?
Oh my gosh. I know that Miss Alsobrooks is going to do a phenomenal job. I am sure she's going to put appoint people in her cabinet that will move this county forward. We have a lot of growth. I have an issue with the fact that we weren't even in we didn't make the short list for Amazon. Like, I'm talking about the short list. You have.
Why do you have that issue? Our schools are horrible.
But no, there's an issue with that. I have an issue. So you have.
Okay, I got
you
it.
have Montgomery County. You have a whole. You just have Northern Virginia. You just have a whole you they don't even give a city. And then D.C. and then Prince George's County is left out. What's the issue? And I feel that. And I know that Angela Alsobrooks is going to pay attention to that and bring these resources that we need in the county to the county, so we can be an active bidder on such projects. And one of the things that I like about Angela and her platform is she's recognized that it's just not the teachers in the school system. It's a holistic approach. It's the households. What's going on with the families. We can send our kids to school all day long, but when they come home, who's reinforcing what the kids are learning, or who's coming to the parent-teacher conferences? Who's being active. So I know that Angela's going to do a great job, and I'm looking forward to working with her.
So what do you say to those of us, right, who are critics that believe that she would be pretty much more in favor of the developers? Like, talk to me. Like, that was one of my things. I felt like, dang, man, you know what? It's going to be another thing where as though the developers going to come in and just do what they want to do.
But
what could you say about Angela's integrity?
I think she has more than 100% integrity. But what I would want to ask you is, when you say she's for the developers or you want things for us, what are you asking for?
So in terms of that is, I want development. But I want us to also get our fair share, as in like schools, right? Mm-hmm. We constantly building apartments and bringing in bodies and children, but we're not keeping. I don't believe anyway. I don't know if it's factual, but I don't believe that we're keeping up to the pace of building new schools for these children. My son's class has 28 to 30 students in his class. Like, if you're gonna come in and build up, that's fine. We got dirt. No problem. We got dirt for you, but guess what? We're going to hold your foot to the fire to say, hey, you got to provide this. We need this. We need these schools. We need that and that. That's
I agree. I went to a school, that I graduated with 900 other people in the senior class. Okay. So my school was overcrowded. It hasn't changed.
No, it hasn't.
It hasn't. And from when I've heard her speak, she understands the issue. My sister, she's running for re-election for the school board. She understands the issues. We're constantly developing these townhouses. If we're gonna build up, we do need to have more schools.
Yeah.
I concur with that statement.
Even with our returning citizens, we need some of them jobs. I don't know if she can put in a contract and say, hey, listen, we need 5% of these jobs to go to our returning citizen population. I don't know if that can be done or not legally, but I'm just saying things like that. I don't think Rashawn had any. Mr. Barron, talking about the governor's race, right? How can we help Ben? Well, we're pretty much here now. How can we help Ben Jealous get elected?
We have to. We were talking about the importance of voting earlier, and it has to get to the point where not only are we voting, your listeners voting, but it's peer pressure. After Monday Night Football on Tuesday morning, you going into work and it's like, did you see that game?
Right.
And you feel dumb if you ain't see it, because everybody saw it, or everybody watched the highlights. It's got to be to that level where, you want to make sure you voted, if only because, you're going to hear from it, from your family, your friends. We should be embarrassed, not to vote. And we should, not only make sure that we vote, but that we're calling out, hey, remember to vote. Did y'all you vote yet? Y'all vote yet?
Right.
That's the biggest thing we can do right now is encourage, drag cajole, you know, everyone to the polls. That's what will change the game. And that's what will hold any of us accountable at the local, state, you know, presidential level. You know, my colleagues look at, you know, how many people came out in Moco versus Prince George's. We look at that. That stuff, that kind of thing drives policy. It drives funding.
Really?
So yeah, it's real.
So okay, I got you. I had a question for you, Mahasin. I had a question for you. I forgot it.
It'll come back to you. I'm sure it will.
Yeah, I forgot it.
You're not a man of a few words. I can.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Okay, let's just move on to state's attorneys. You're gonna be dealing with a lot of them.
Of course.
Well, actually, you're gonna be dealing with all of them. So our Democratic nominee is Miss Aisha Braveboy. Wow, it's a lot of sisters just running this. It's a lot of sisters running the show right now.
I can tell you that. A lot. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to have. You know, Angela Alsobrooks, Angela, and you know what? The courthouse is that we have our administrative judge is a sister, Judge Tillerson Adams, Sheila Tillerson Adams.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That just hit me. So thinking about, because to me I feel like she's already in Aisha, so I wanted to talk about her competition, but pretty much it's not now. I looked at the ballot today. She's pretty much in there. So just thinking, let's just move on to, I'm gonna move on, Mr. Barron. Talk about the 2019 legislative session.
Okay.
Criminal justice reform. What can we expect to be coming up in 2019?
So there's with the Justice Reinvestment Act, there's now an oversight board, and we're trying to make sure that that is implemented correctly, and that things that need to be tweaked or expanded or added on, that we do that. For example, bail reform came on after the Justice Reinvestment Act. How is that going? How can we ensure that people aren't unnecessarily held pre-trial?
Okay.
And, you know, continuing to increase access to drug treatment, mental health treatment. That's what I'll be working on every session.
Okay.
But some other big issues, the Kerwin Commission, we talked about education funding. That's going to change. That's going to take up a lot of air in the next session. And so I would encourage everybody to stay active, stay engaged. You can't go, one thing you can't do is go and vote and then assume, well, you know, I elected her, I like her, we good now. You know, we good.
Talk about
that. You know, you may like me, you may vote for me, but you gotta continue to stay engaged, you know, see what I'm up to, hold my feet to the fire.
Right.
You know, don't assume I know everything that's going on in your particular neck of the woods.
Exactly.
Let me know. And if I haven't shown up there, hey, you know, send me an email. I'll be there, you know. And if I'm not there, or if my colleagues are not there, then make noise about it.
Exactly.
Hold us accountable. Make sure that we know about things that are going on. You know, it's hard for us to react and respond, you know, when we don't know about it. You know, so please stay engaged after you vote, and make sure we're doing the things that are priorities to you.
Yeah, doesn't District 24 have some type of weekend sessions or?
We are the only district that has a standing community meeting. Actually, two standing community meetings. The 202 Coalition, which is every fourth Sunday, and the 450 Coalition, which is every fourth Saturday. Two standing community meetings. You can't make one, you can make the other. You can't make either one, I give everybody my cell phone, you know, and we're public. All our information is public. Shoot us an email, send me a text, let me know. You know, we'll have coffee at Wegmans, you know, and talk about the issues in your community.
Great. I be getting those flyers. I don't go. I'm gonna start going.
So good.
I was getting the two coalition. I be getting them. I'm gonna start coming.
They even give you donuts. They coffee and donuts, and it's well attended, and and they'll stay as long as you want to stay, and they'll ask you. You are able to ask them questions. I mean, so they're approachable. And then the officials, they come to your civic association meetings. They come to they you know, your community clubs. And it shouldn't just be just right before the election. It really shouldn't be. And if you're not seeing your elected officials out, you know, of the 3 years, except for that 1 year prior to the election, you know, you got to call them, make like Erek said, you have to make noise, because they represent you, they represent us, you know, and just like you're one of his constituents, and you know, you have a show. If you didn't respond to you could put him on blast, and you know, and reach thousands of people.
And I could tell you, Mahasin wants to know what's going. The more you tell her about what's going on in the courthouse, and you know, the more she's able to respond and make it a better place. You know, basically, her job is going to be making the courthouse run smoothly. And so when you go to the courthouse and somebody has an attitude, or the case file is lost, you know, let us know. Then we can make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right. And any ideas that we have that can possibly improve a service, we need to let you all know too. Because I think we have a misconception that you all know everything. That's a misconception, right? We all learning every day, even whatever perspective role we're in, we're all learning every day.
And let me say this, let us know what's going right. What we're doing right. We don't always know that either, you know, and so it's nice to know, oh, you know, I like that email newsletter. I do a newsletter once a month. And I don't hear hardly from anybody. It's very rare. But every once in a while, someone says, man, thank you for sending that newsletter. It's very informative. You know, I'm like, oh, okay. That's it. I like how you did this on the newsletter, or you did that. That tells me something. So then I can say, okay, they seem to like this. They don't care for that. I can make it better and better and better, you know?
Right.
I read your newsletter, Erek, if that makes you feel better.
Thank you.
I read it too. So before we get out, I got to touch on something that's real dear to me, and that is the lifers, juvenile lifers, removing the governor from the parole process. I think you probably was on the fence with that one last time I talked to you at the registration hearing. I don't think you didn't express it, but I just kind of like got it from myself that you probably was like. How do you feel about that?
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Okay.
Now, how we gonna get there? I don't. You know, that's the current governor. You know, I don't.
He's not with it.
He's not with it.
And then on top of that, was that reintroduced? I don't even think that was reintroduced last session.
I think you're right.
That didn't come. No, Valerio didn't even bring that. That wasn't even. Yeah, that didn't come up last session.
Yeah, I think you're right. So
the year before, it died. Yep. So, well, you say you with it. So I guess my thing is, I really feel like, not to beat a dead horse, but I just feel like we know through science that we're not really developed at a young age. Some of the stuff that we're doing as juveniles, you know, what if I'd have got life? I'm not trying to toot my own horn or nothing like that, but what if I got 80 years, 100 years? You know, like, I wouldn't even be the person that I am today. I wouldn't have been given that opportunity. Knowing now what I know, like, listen, it ain't about that street life. That's not where it's at. But when you stuck in it, you kind of like think this is it, you know? Like, this is my way out right here. I'm in the streets. I'm going to go at it hard. But I really think for Maryland, especially a democratic state, if we hold true to our democratic values, that they should be given a second chance. You know? You have somebody that sentenced to life with the possibility of parole. Why you want to tell the people don't send the paperwork to my desk? I ain't letting nobody out. Don't send me that paperwork. And continue to practice that for years. Right? So, well, I don't have to beat a dead horse because you with me on that. Anything y'all want to talk about before we leave? We got like about 4 or 5 minutes. Is it anything you want to?
Can I just talk about the governor's race real quick and
Yes.
some of the issues that are going to be coming up
Yes.
in the next 4 years and why we should elect a
Ben
Democratic, Ben Jealous, a Democratic governor?
Come on.
Because, you know, how many seats are going to come up on the Court of Appeals? Is it 3 or 4 seats?
I believe it's at least 4.
On our highest court. And all I can say is let's just, remember Kavanaugh not too long ago?
Yep.
So if we have a Republican governor on our in office come appointment time, that's 4. That's 4. He can change the dynamic of our Court of Appeals, our highest court. So that's one thing. And then we also have redistricting.
Yes.
That's coming up.
That.
I mean,
talk about that.
I mean, Prince George's County may not be a Republican state. I mean, Republican county, but it can get kind of close. It can get kind of close with redistricting. But you have the whole entire state of Maryland that we have a lot of red pockets in especially our smaller counties.
So explain to us briefly about the concern of redistricting, because a lot of us don't understand. Like
you can redistrict it to a point where you have all the Democrats consolidated in one area, and then you have more representation of more of the red in the other areas. That's pretty much what we're in fear of.
Right, and so what that would do is that would allow for the red to have more legislators or lawmakers according to that population that he redistricted. Right?
Yep.
Did that sound kind of like right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another thing, talking about Lockbox, because I'm telling you, that Hogan commercial is driving me crazy. Can you please clear this up?
What's driving you crazy about it?
Because he keeps saying the Hogan Lockbox.
Yeah.
Can you clear this up? We got 3 minutes, please. You are a legislator. Can you please clear this up? Is it the Hogan's Lockbox?
I don't know where this Hogan's Lockbox came from. Delegate Maggie McIntosh out of Baltimore City.
Yes. And
Senator Joan Carter Conway, also out of Baltimore City, got together and said, we're going to do this lockbox. Because when voters voted for the casinos, they were told or given the impression that the money is going to go to education. But that ain't necessarily happening.
No.
So we are going to introduce this bill and a constitutional amendment to make sure that the money stays. That's the casino money that's supposed to go to education stays put for education. That's what the
voters voted for.
Voters voted for. That's what will be on the ballot box. Our governor has a habit of jumping on the bandwagon and not just supporting things after they passed that he didn't really have a whole lot to do with, but taking the credit for.
Right.
He can take credit for other things, but with that, he's taking credit for something that it wasn't his idea, it wasn't his proposal, and he didn't champion it in the legislature.
And the sad thing, and then I want to move on to this event that you got coming up. The sad thing is that when I talk to people in the streets, they say the Hogan Lockbox. And then again, that goes to us not being engaged, involved, because it burns me up every time I see it. We're getting ready to get out of here, so let's talk about what you have coming up.
Yes, we have an expungement clinic coming up November 10th at Shiloh Baptist Church in Landover, Maryland. It's November 10th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're going to have attorneys who really are passionate about helping people and helping people for free to see if you're not sure, if you know you have something that's expungible, if you're not sure you have something that's expungible, if you not even really sure whether you have a record or not, come. we're gonna have refreshments. We're gonna have people coming in, and like Mahasin coming in and speaking to you all. Yes, I've just invited you. But we're just trying to help you, and make sure that you're not being held back. For something that is past,
right,
over, done with. Not being held back from a job, from housing, from all the good things that you want to do.
Great. And Mahasin, real quick, you got something you want to say before we leave?
Thank you so much. Get out and vote. You got 7 days of early voting, and you have November 6th is our election day. Get out and vote. Take not just one friend, take like 20 friends. I believe Lyft and Uber are giving free rides.
Yes.
So not having a ride to the voting polls is not acceptable.
Well, they summed it all up. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time. Have a good night.